What's good, everybody? Brian Tong here, and with some of the recent reports, I think it's a good time to revisit and ask, is Apple finally taking the smart home seriously? You know, it's something that I've almost given up on after really asking for it the past 5 years plus and being let down over and over. So let's get to the stories and then break it down. So if you didn't hear, a recent report from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman claims that Apple is getting close to launching an all-new product category, and it's for the smart home. It will reportedly be a wall-mounted display that can control things like your lighting or appliances, do video conferencing, and use AI to navigate through apps. The product is codenamed Project J490, according to Gurman, and it will be positioned as a command center for the home, with the device potentially being announced as early as March next year, which is about 4 months from now. Now, the device reportedly has about a 6-inch display, and it looks like a square iPad that's roughly the size of 2 iPhones side by side with a thick edge around the display. It will have a camera at the top for video calls, a rechargeable built-in battery, and internal speakers. And Gurman says that Apple will offer it in silver and black color options, even though I'm already thinking in my head and asking for white. Now, the report also says it has a touch interface that is a blend of the Apple Watch OS and then the recent standby mode that the iPhone has when you're charging it. Then you have it rotated in landscape mode. Apple hopes for people to primarily use their voice to interact with this device and an improved Siri digital assistant with Apple Intelligence. Now, the hardware was also designed with Apple's new App Intense in mind. This lets you precisely control apps and tasks, and that should finally be coming to iOS in the next few months, but it's not ready now, even if Apple teased it at WWDC this year. Now, there is no official name for this product, and we still don't know what it exactly looks like, but of course, there's some renders out there, and even the guesses will be pretty close to what it is. Basically, a smarter, smaller iPad with a home focus for the wall. I say, hey, let's just call it the HomePad for now, because it's almost too easy to figure this one out. Like, there's not too many other things it could be. Now, the Bloomberg report continues to go in depth and say that it will be marketed to consumers as a way to control home appliances, chat with Siri, and have intercom sessions with Apple FaceTime while being loaded with core Apple apps for web browsing, listening to music, getting news, and more, all that ecosystem stuff. And it's not like this is some completely new, innovative thing. We've seen Amazon on top of it in this smart display space and this idea for years. We have Google's recent Pixel tablet. That's their version for the Google ecosystem, and it has that awesome speaker dock that I first called genius, because Apple should have absolutely done this years ago, but they didn't, and they had their focus on other areas. Now, Apple still has the luxury of coming later to the party, and it always does, but I'm already pretty entrenched in my smart home system that uses both the Amazon and Google smart home platforms together. So will Apple finally take advantage of the compatibility of the Matter platform to bring a more cohesive smart home experience across multiple devices and platforms? We will see, Apple users. Then it almost felt like Amazon then reacted to this report a little while ago, because last week they announced they were going even bigger with their Amazon Echo Show now being available in both 15-inch and 21-inch display sizes to connect the home with an even larger display that can then be the center hub for the home and be used for media consumption and entertainment. We also know back in the day, Meta, aka Facebook back then, they tried their own Portal product that absolutely flopped, because no one is trusting Facebook with any level of user privacy. And I mean no one, because their own employees that I know wouldn't even use it. But we have other companies that are already doing things at a high level in the smart home space. There just hasn't been a product that seamlessly operates in that Apple ecosystem, and it looks like the Fruit people might be finally taking it more seriously. Now, there had already been reports earlier in the year that Apple was working on a display with this robotic arm that could be attached to a table, and is expected to now be really a more premium version and more expensive follow-up to this first generation HomePad. And then they'll take what they learned from this first run to address in the next gen versions of this product, because that's what Apple does. Now, the Bloomberg report says that they've been told that it could be priced as high as $1,000 depending on the materials used for that higher end robotic arm smart display. But this initial model that is being targeted for release as early as March 2025 would be significantly less than that, and I'd guess it would be more maybe in that $400 to $500 starting price range. Pixel tablet, I believe, starts around $230, and then Echo Show stuff is around $150 range starting. So that add the Apple tax, that probably makes sense. Now, Apple has also reportedly developed different attachments for this HomePad, including attaching the screen to a wall, similar to like a typical home security panel, or you got different bases to connect to with speakers that could be connected to in different rooms, like the kitchen or on a nightstand in the bedroom or home office. And then you could do exactly what Google's Pixel tablet does right now. Now, it's also being reported the product is expected to bring Siri and Apple Intelligence together in a way that hasn't happened before. And you know, before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm just waiting for them to actually release the full version of Apple Intelligence that was announced this year at WWDC. All signs point to it being complete sometime in 2025. It still hasn't completely been released. I talk about this on this channel all the time, so I'm not getting my hopes up for a super merged special version for the HomePad. I'll just believe it when I see it. I think that's how we should treat this. Now, the Apple Smart Display, aka HomePad, this is going to run a new operating system that's codenamed Pebble internally, and will have sensors that actually detect how close a person is and then adjust its visible features as you're closer or further away from the display. Now, that's already been implemented in the new Google Nest thermostat lineup. It's very sleek how it does that. But now, here's where it could also get interesting. Apple is reportedly also working on a system that will use presence sensors that you'll need to plug in that can detect when people are in a room and how many people are in a room. Now, this may or may not happen based on the report, and there are already other companies that offer these presence sensors, but you can start getting very specific when you can start having it program the temperature or lighting for a certain time of the day when a person enters a room and stays there. So think of it, if it's 10 p.m. in the living room in this corner, and you always like to have a reading corner with a lamp on, and it knows that you're within proximity of that during that time, it would just automatically know once you're there and turn on the light and plop you down. That's pretty cool. Apple also needs a new exciting revenue stream, and I've been screaming that the smart home is really one place with a lot of low-hanging fruit. Get it? Okay, yeah. Where they could make a dent here by addressing it. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. Then there has been this idea that maybe Apple could be and should be working on an actual Apple TV and not just a set-top box. Now, if we go back to Walter Isaacson's book on Steve Jobs, in it, right, it was these exclusive interviews and access that were given, a real true deep dive biography, and Jobs was involved. But Jobs told him, I finally cracked it. And he was referring to him being able to revolutionize TV. Now, I'm not so sure that would have happened. I'm never gonna go against SJ, but Jobs wanted to create an integrated television set that is completely easy to use, and it would have been synced with all of your devices and with iCloud. And when you look at it now, that's pretty much what the Apple TV little set-top box has done, and it's a nice experience, it's enhanced, but that didn't really crack anything for the TV industry. I mean, I don't see people buying these in droves and everyone's saying, I had to get an Apple TV. The other issue is that the profit margins on TV sets are so low, somewhere between 10 to 20% based on reports, where Apple, they're used to margins on their products in the 30 to 40% range. That doesn't make sense for their business model and how they operate. Now, it was also an extremely competitive space back then, and it's now even more competitive today. You have the stalwarts like Sony, Samsung, and LG, and now you have newer companies like TCL, Hisense, and then even Panasonic coming back to the US market and more. So the competition and pricing is even more fierce now than it ever was before. The display technology at different price points is even better. So I think this idea that Apple should be making a new TV of their own, that sounds like a daunting one for them. To me, it doesn't sound like a smart business decision for them. And if you want, then hey, okay, Apple, make something like a smaller and cheaper Apple TV stick to connect to the back of your TV, something that's more approachable. Those margins aren't gonna be great either, and consumers have shown us before, and they've shown us now that the TV UI interface and experience is just not that really important of enough feature for them. Plus, now you have the Apple TV app that's on every major streaming device too. Then add on the fact that most people, let's say they upgrade their TVs every 7 to 10 years, it's at least a minimum of 5, maybe even more than that 7 to 10 range, and there is not a high turnover rate at all. So I'm telling Apple and all the people that want one, if they're even thinking of making their own Apple TV, do not do it unless you are really gonna blow our minds with something some new display tech that it changes the game, okay? That's when you should do it. Now, let's go and jump back to the smart home. It feels extremely late to the game to get into the smart home for me, but I can also see how it all is arguably a good time for Apple because things have become stagnant in this space, and maybe this is Apple's opportunity to bring something new and invigorating from a tech perspective to the smart home, but we're gonna have to wait and see. Now, I'm already deeply entrenched in a mixed Amazon and Google smart home ecosystem, and it works for me, but I am intrigued by what they are trying to do. I do like the reports that I'm hearing, and it's not just like a little blurb rumor about the smart home, but some just really great in-depth reporting and sourcing from the Bloomberg team and others, but Bloomberg has like hit this hard. So I want to see what it could bring, and it's about time that it sounds like, based on the reports, that Apple is finally taking the smart home seriously. Again, it is really late to the game, but we'll see what happens, and only time will tell. All right, everybody, that's gonna do it for this video. Hey, you know what? You might know this, but I'm actually on vacation right now as you're watching this, getting nice and toasty and brown and surfing those nice waves, but I wasn't gonna leave you with no video for the week. So if you like what you see, give me that thumbs up, subs up, and hit that notification bell, ding, to get all my latest videos when they drop. Hey, I wanna know what you think about the smart home. Is Apple finally taking it seriously? Is it about time? Are you intrigued? Put in the comments because I do read them. And if you want more of that Apple goodness, you can check out my weekly Apple Bits XL audio podcast with the latest stories and special guests. Plus, you can support all my content with an ad-free version of the podcast, early access to my content, and exclusive content at patreon.com/Brian Tong. So thanks so much for watching. Take care, keep on enjoying the holidays, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace and love.